monitoring starts, when we look at the monitoring solution, we've really tried to embed within the platform those tools that you need in order to analyze what's going on within your environment, troubleshoot various challenges that might be occurring, as well as drill into the analytics dashboards to look in details, create custom dashboards based on your own requirements, be able to analyze business data, so not just the telemetry that we might be looking at, like average response time and number of transactions, but look at the order value, for example, that might be flowing through. And leverage distributed logging as well as use tokenization within the platform. The visualizer is where it usually all begins and what really attracts people to our monitoring solution. We're able to actually use visualizer to see, is the architecture that's actually implemented, did it match what we had architected in the design stage? We can look at the troubleshooting side of this, and when something's going wrong, know all of those things upstream that are impacted by the failing component, as well as be able to drill in and immediately find the identification of the problem. And then also be able to look at our security posture and see where are policies applied, where are policies missing through the use of the visualizer. And it all starts with a graphical view into the world. And that's where our visualizer really shines. If I flip over to the live view of this, we'll see I have a view into my organization that I can zoom in on and see which option or which APIs are calling which other APIs, which batch processes call which components that are in here. So it gives me, it automatically builds this view of who's calling whom. You don't have to do anything. And with this particular view then, I can look at the architecture, as we said. I can leverage this to look at the troubleshooting piece of this. So in this case, I'm looking at the average response time, and I can see I have a scale in here that shows me the min and the max time within this. I can look at the average throughput perspective as I'm drilling into my visualizer. And this is showing me the transactions per minute or per microsecond as we're looking at these. And so the throughput is helpful when I start looking at transaction volumes and trying to figure those things out. I can also flip the view and look at the failure rate. And this will help me immediately identify components that are in failure. All I know is I just look at the red component and I know why it's failing. I can also look at CPU and memory utilization and that sort of thing. In a large organization, you'd never look at the entire picture. So that's why we give you a way to filter out based on environments or business groups or tags that I've applied to my applications that are deployed, or just go down to the individual services themselves. And then I'm able to save my view and come back to that at any point in time so that I don't have to continually go in and configure what I'm looking for. So the views are critical to letting me find things and create that very quickly. But if I go back to my average response time view and we look at that, it gives me a way to, like I said, see what is the long pole in the tent out here. And we're going to say that the customer API that we're looking at here is the one that I really want to drill into and investigate. And so immediately I see I've got some spikes in here. So what I could do would be to zoom in on those spikes and start now looking at an individual time frame within my analytical data. Once I have a particular time frame identified, I can now see what's going on around this particular app that's out there, and then get more information about the number of failures, number of requests, and that sort of thing, failure rates. I can drill into then the dashboard, and so from that graphical view that's showing me in context what was going on, now I can drill in and use the built-in dashboards to start analyzing the total requests, the average response time, the number of mule messages. I can look at the CPU and memory utilization, thread count, that sort of thing. And as I'm looking at these, I can again go and maybe drill into and refine my perspective a little further into what's going on at a particular point in time. And you'll notice all the charts are changing in accordance with the time frame that I slid over. Now I can start drilling in and looking at, well, what's going on with the inbound request as I look through these. And here I'd see my various endpoints that I have out here. I only have one in this application, but I see what's going on within those. And here I see my percentile rankings of the charts that I'm looking at. And I can drill into many more details as I'm looking at these. When I look at the outbound, this is looking at from within this application, what are the endpoints that I am calling? And I can see then the averages and outbound requests and that sort of thing, outbound endpoints that I'm accessing within this, and again, the percentile rankings and the like. Now, I can go further. I can drill down and look at within my application, and if you'll recall from our development series that we looked at, each of these flows within here will have its own metrics that I'm looking at. And so now when I go to the Flows tab, this is where I'm looking at what's going on at a flow level, and I can see each one of those flows and what it's doing. And now I can drill down to the next level and say, within that flow, which connectors are performing well and maybe which ones do I need to look at. So as I drill into this, I can see my HTTP requests that are going in, and so I know I need to drill in and look at that because it's taking longer than it normally does. So this gives me a way to really drill in and investigate what's going on within my monitoring infrastructure. And then when I need to, once I kind of think, okay, kind of figured out where the problem might be, now I can go into the logs and I'm looking at that time frame that I had zoomed in on for the particular application. And now I can go through the logs and start analyzing what's going on within that. And just to kind of span back out and show some of the power of this, as I remove the particular application that was in there, now within this time frame, I see there's a lot more applications that were doing things within this, and I can start looking around that application to see what might have been going on and be able to find what identify what the error was, and then be able to leverage that. So we were able to go from top down to bottom very, very quickly and leverage the monitoring, the logging infrastructure that's there, the visualizer infrastructure that we started off with, to really help us to identify problems and monitor that infrastructure that we're running on.